Imagine this. A nation standing on the edge of economic decline, a storm brewing behind the calm smiles of Westminster. Inside Downing Street, whispers echo through the corridors, "We'll need someone to blame." And that's where the plan begins. Because, according to reports surfacing from inside the Treasury, Sir Keir Starmer is preparing to unleash one of the most explosive political moves of his premiership, shifting the blame for Britain's economic troubles directly onto the man who has haunted Westminster for over a decade. Nigel Farage. But why now? And what's really going on behind those closed doors? Before we uncover the truth, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to Echo Britain, and tell us in the comments, do you think Starmer is right to blame Brexit, or is this just political theatre? Your opinion matters, and your comment might just feature in our next video. It all begins with the budget. Officials inside the Treasury are bracing for the Office for Budget Responsibility, the OBR, to lower its forecasts for Britain's productivity growth. A downgrade so sharp it could rip a £20 billion hole in the government's finances. And the only way to fill that hole will be through tax rises. Yes, the same government that promised stability and discipline now faces the same dilemma that haunted the Conservatives, raising taxes to stop Britain from sliding further into economic chaos. But what's even more startling is how Number 10 plans to explain it. According to The Times, Sir Keir and Chancellor Rachel Reeves are quietly preparing to pin this economic downturn on Brexit, and by extension, on Nigel Farage himself. The logic is simple, yet explosive. They believe the fall in productivity, the drop in trade, and the slowing economy are all consequences of the 2016 vote to leave the EU, a vote championed, led, and immortalised by Farage. And now, 8 years later, the Prime Minister seems ready to reopen that wound, at the heart of Britain's political divide. Earlier this year, The Independent revealed that Brexit has already cost British businesses £37 billion a year, the result of a 5% decline in trade with the European bloc. Despite recent cooperation agreements between London and Brussels, analysts fear the damage runs deeper, a slow bleed that even new trade deals can't quite stop. Inside government, the frustration is mounting. Rachel Reeves faces pressure from every corner, from economists demanding clarity to party loyalists warning her not to risk alienating the millions who voted leave. But Keir Starmer, it seems, is ready for confrontation. Because this isn't just about economics anymore, it's about political survival. At Labour's conference in Liverpool, the tone shifted dramatically. Gone was the cautious language of unity. In its place, a declaration of war against the populist right. For 54 minutes, the Prime Minister stood before his party and delivered one of his most impassioned speeches yet, warning that the fight with Nigel Farage and Reform UK is nothing less than a battle for the soul of Britain. He accused the Reform leader of spreading lies and division, comparing his economic pledges to the fantasy economics of Liz Truss, a comparison that stung across the political spectrum. Starmer warned that Farage's tax-cutting promises would crash the economy just as Truss's mini-budget once did. But he went further. He claimed that Farage doesn't like Britain, that his movement threatens to tear apart the values that hold the country together. And then came the most controversial line of all. Starmer vowed to defend the British flag from the far right. He said Labour, not Reform, is the true patriotic party. He promised a land of dignity and respect, warning that the politics of Nigel Farage would threaten the livelihoods of thousands of legal migrants. And with a sharp edge to his tone, he declared that anyone who suggests people who have lived here for generations should now be deported is an enemy of national renewal. The hall erupted in applause. But outside that hall, questions grew louder. Was this passion or desperation? Because behind the scenes, the numbers tell a harsher story. The Treasury is quietly preparing for a budget that could test Labour's promises to their limits. Officials now expect up to £30 billion in new taxes, forced not only by sluggish productivity, but by U-turns, broken pledges, and higher-than-expected interest payments on the national debt. Rachel Reeves, once hailed as the voice of fiscal discipline, is now cornered. She's ruled out raising VAT, income tax, or national insurance, yet experts warn those may be the only levers left to pull. Every decision will be painful. Every choice will test the fragile trust of a nation already weary of austerity and politics as usual. And somewhere in the middle of it all stands Keir Starmer, preparing to shift the blame toward the ghosts of Brexit. Those close to Downing Street describe the coming months as politically radioactive. Austerity, Brexit, Reform UK, immigration, all the old wounds reopened, all at once. For years, Starmer tried to keep Brexit off the front pages, insisting he wanted to move on and to make Brexit work. But as the numbers darken and the economy slows, that door has swung wide open again. And this time, Starmer isn't moving on, he's pointing fingers. The calculation is risky. By blaming Farage and the Brexit legacy, he might rally his base, but he could also reignite the fury of millions who still believe in the dream of independence from Brussels. Some inside Labour fear this approach could backfire. Because the moment Starmer blames Brexit for Britain's decline, he risks looking weak, like a prime minister running out of excuses. Others, however, believe it's the only way to reset the narrative, to turn the conversation from Labour's tax rises and spending cuts toward a battle between progress and populism. A battle Keir Starmer believes he can win. For Nigel Farage, the timing couldn't be better. Reform UK continues to climb in the polls, feeding off frustration, anger, and disillusionment. Every time Labour mentions his name, Farage grows stronger, a political spectre that thrives on confrontation. And perhaps, that's exactly what Starmer wants. To make the budget not just a test of numbers, but a test of beliefs. To cast himself as the rational defender of Britain's economy against what he calls the fantasy politics of the right. But politics, as history often shows, has a cruel sense of irony. The stage is set. The forecasts are grim. The budget looms, and with it, the next great act in Britain's economic drama. In a few short weeks, the Prime Minister will stand before the nation and unveil his plan. He'll warn of difficult choices, of inherited problems, of sacrifices ahead. And then, if reports are right, he'll turn his gaze, not toward his own benches, not toward the Treasury, but toward Nigel Farage, and the decision Britain made in 2016. Some will call it truth. Others will call it deflection. But one thing is certain, this is no longer just about the numbers. It's about history, blame, and power. And as Britain braces for another wave of economic turbulence, the question remains. Will Starmer's strategy save him, or destroy him? Because in politics, blame is easy. But consequences are not. If you've watched till the end, let us know your thoughts in the comments. Do you think blaming Brexit will help Starmer, or will it awaken the ghosts of the past once again? And don't forget, hit like, subscribe, and stay tuned to Echo Britain for more stories that cut through the noise and reveal the truth behind the headlines.